Good evening, everybody. It's Monday. Welcome to Social Soccer. My name is Sammy Thomas. It's great to have you on board. And of course, this is the European Transfer Show. We have a huge amount of transfers to go through today. Across Italy, across England, across Germany and Spain as well. So it's going to be a really interesting one. We're also going to take a look at the omissions from the weekend's fixtures. What that means is players have been left out of the matchday squad. It can only mean one thing. It can only mean that they are out the door. So who are these players? You're going to be shocked when you find out who they are. So we're going to give you a rundown through that as well. And of course, we're going to cover the movements and the completed transfer deal. So there's a lot to get into today. Really good to have you on board. If you're new here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. The show's been getting a lot of traction, which is really good to see. What we do on this show, this is the daily transfer show. So we're going to round up everything across Europe. It's not just going to be what the mainstream tell you. We cover all of the big European transfers and the smaller ones as well, because that is what we do. This is your football hub for all things European football. So if you're brand new here, welcome. If you're one of the regulars, we're going to get stuck into it. Let's go. And of course, if you are one of the regulars of the community here at Social Soccer, you know that the first place we always like to start is the movements. The movements that have happened in the transfer window that, one, have repercussions for the selling club, but two, they're not quite there yet, but they will probably be completed deals in the next few days. So this isn't speculation out of thin air. This is very reliable sources breaking down the information, putting the news public. What we do is we just gather it all and put it in one place for you. So let's jump into the movements and have a look at what's happened today. So the first place to start is İlkay Gündoğan. This story has gathered a lot of momentum throughout the day, so much so that clubs are now on high alert, including his former club, Man City. We know Gündoğan, he's won everything there is. He's 33, so he's by no means done. You'd probably think he'd have at least 2 seasons left at the top, at least. But this won't stop clubs, you know, from Saudi, from Qatar, approaching the German with a big, lucrative offer. Now, the reason that this has really started to move is the FFP restrictions that Barcelona face. Plus, they're facing quite a bit of a headache as well. They can't actually register Dani Olmo right now. They brought him back to Barcelona a few weeks ago following, you know, the brilliant Euros that he had. Everybody's seen that, but they've had their hands tied when it comes to the registration side of things. So moving on the German will, one, allow them to get a fee from FFP. We know how big, much trouble Barcelona get in when it comes to money. But two, it's going to open up a squad space in terms of the registration. Then Olmo can join the squad. So keep a close eye on this one. It's really gathered pace and momentum quick, just because, the calibre of player that is now available on the market. So we'd certainly expect something to happen in the next couple of days. Man City, they're the front runners at the moment, but watch out for Stuttgart in the Champions League this season. They really could benefit from Gündoğan in the team. And of course, his former club, Borussia Dortmund as well. I'm sure they will also be on high alert. So keep an eye out for this one. And of course, we will update you as and when. So next, it's understood that Southampton have agreed a deal for young Portuguese midfielder Matheus Fernandes, a big talent from Portugal. Look, he grew up in the Lisbon Academy, famous for many players coming through. So he's well educated. He had a great season last year as well at Estoril in Portugal. So this season, he's back at Lisbon following that loan. He's already made an appearance for them. However, a bid has now understood to be accepted for the young midfielder from the Saints. So he could be heading to St Mary's. There's rumours and wide reports that the medical has been booked for today. So this may be underway now. This could be confirmed very quickly unless somebody else comes in for him. But Southampton, they've had a busy window. However, this could be hugely exciting for them and Portugal fans as well. This could be a huge move for what should be a future international or maybe a future captain. So keep an eye out for this one. Southampton, they won't be finished yet in the transfer market either. They didn't have a great start to the season. They obviously lost 1-0 away at Newcastle. But they've been busy. This will be a great signing. Fernandes, lots of potential, highly regarded as well. So I'd anticipate this move to happen in the next 24 hours. And finally, a hugely exciting talent who, let's face it, his career has dropped off quite dramatically. That may be a bit harsh, but when you look at Makoko and the records that he has set early in his career, first he was the youngest ever Bundesliga appearance holder and scorer, and then the youngest player to make a Champions League appearance as well. We know he can play as a striker, he can play on the left, and I can't help but think his style of play could be a very good fit for La Liga. He's explosive, he's quick, he's direct, He's tricky. He gets in behind. There's a lot of old aging defenders in La Liga as well. And especially if he goes somewhere where he is the main man. He is rumoured to be going to Real Betis. At such a young age, he's already made 76 Bundesliga appearances. And he's still widely regarded as one of the brightest talents to come out of Germany in recent times. Although it's stalled a little bit, a move could be absolutely brilliant for his career. Now, Betis are the club who are the front runners. They are heavily linked to him. Betis manager Pellegrini was forced to start a utility man in Aitor Rubial in attack for their season opener against Girona. So this one has eagerness from both parties to be completed. So much so that Makugu is actually rumoured to be willing to take a pay cut to make the move happen. So he wants the move to happen. Betis, they've had a lot of exits happen over the transfer window as well. They're eager to get a striker in because they actually don't have anybody who's fit right now. So it could be a great move for both parties. It's rumoured to be a loan with an obligation to buy in 2025. Again, watch this space. It's really developed. It's really moved forward today. So there you have the three biggest movements of the day that haven't quite got over the line yet. But it's interesting how quickly these deals gather pace. If you've been watching the previous shows, and we'll come onto it in a minute, many regular faces from that movement section have now been confirmed transfers to the clubs that we reported that they were linked to. So the three that we just mentioned there, I'd probably say, look, they're going to be done this week, that's for sure. So keep an eye on those ones. Let's jump in now to the confirmed transfers today and run you through everything that's happened. First transfer, Marash Kambula on loan to Espanyol from AS Roma. Young centre-half, needs a loan to be honest, needs a run of games, very good move for him. Borna Sosa, if you listened to the show last week, we linked him from Ajax to Torino. That has gone through. Great buy for Torino, loan with an obligation to buy there. The big one was Evan Nilsson. He went from Porto to Bournemouth for a record fee for Bournemouth of £45 million. Great goal scoring pedigree. Now a Brazilian international as well. Could take the Premier League by storm. Of course, I hope he does. We also linked you in the movement section. Adam Klausek. He was supposed to go to Leicester. The deal's been hijacked by Hoffenheim. That has now been completed. Then Arthur Thiete. Really impressed with Belgium. They didn't have a great Euros, but he was one of the standouts at the back. He's moved from Rennes to Frankfurt. That is a loan with an obligation to buy. Lazar Samardzic, Udinese to Atlanta. Another loan with an obligation to buy. 34 games for Udinese last season, 6 goals. Season before that, 37 games, 5 goals. Only 22. Great buy for Atlanta. Interested to see how he kicks on. Juan Baracao, he went from Eibar to Getafe for 2.2 million. And then Michael Tomic, once very highly regarded as a future star. The young right back hasn't really kicked on. He's gone to Norway on loan. His Slavia Prague career is by no means over. This isn't a loan to buy, but he'll now spend the rest of the season in Norway. We then have Mads Engard, young Danish centre midfielder who joined Molde from Randers. Oscar Zambrano, linked with quite a few Premier League clubs last season. Young Ecuadorian centre mid, has gone to Hull City on loan from LDU Quito. Oliver Skipp, big move, Tottenham to Leicester. They are playing each other tonight. Tottenham have cashed in on him. Look, he was never going to feature. Maybe Leicester have overpaid, who knows? But it's a young English central midfielder. Leicester have their man. We then had Miguel Crespo, the central midfielder, Spaniard. He went to Başakşehir from Fenerbahce. Jose Mourinho clearly not fancying Crespo, 2.8 million. And then we had Albion Rahami, FC Rapid to Sparta Prague. He is a Kosovan forward, can also play on the left wing. Great goal scoring record last season. This is the next step up, going from the Romanian league over to the Czech league. Very interesting. And finally, if you listened or watched or were involved in the MLS preview show and the MLS transfer roundup show, we spoke about Moise Bombito, future Canadian captain, absolutely. Centre back, earmarked to replace Juan Tabido, who's gone to West Ham. That has now been confirmed. We spoke about it last week. It's been confirmed today that he has joined Nice for £7 million. So there you have it. Those are the completed deals. Some great deals in there. I love the Borna Sosa deal, as we mentioned on the previous show. Evan Nilsson, of course, at Bournemouth. That's going to be a very interesting signing if that works out as well. 65 million for Solanke and some change, and you've got Evan Nilsson in. So that is hugely exciting. Skip as well, another one who's been linked. He goes to Leicester. Look, he'll get game time. So let's see how that develops. This doesn't mean that the transfer window is closed for today, because the rumours that have been come out on this Monday are massive. The rumour mill is in full effect. This transfer window is really gathering pace. So let's jump into the rumours that have been reported by top tier journalists. We call them tier 1 journalists because they have a good track record in reporting transfer dealings. So let's jump into the rumour mill and see what is developing and could develop in the next week or so. So the first rumour came out from Tutto Napoli. It's Scott McTominay and Fulham. Now, United and Fulham just played each other, so maybe this is why the deal stalled. But Fulham had a bid rejected for Scott McTominay last week now. They are now back in for him. I didn't think they would come back in. It is rumoured that Napoli have had a bid accepted, which is why this source of Tutto Napoli is really, really important. They are reporting this information, so maybe McTominay would like to stay in England, who knows? But it seems Fulham and Napoli now both had bids accepted. We then had Mike McGrath come out with linking Ollie Arblaster, young Sheffield United centre mid to Brentford. So rumours circulating there about young Arblaster. Romano, he reported that Santiago Gomez is a target for Nottingham Forest. They need a striker, Chris Wood and a Wonyi. They didn't quite look up to it at the weekend, to be honest. I was at the City Ground. They didn't look like a threat at all. So Santiago Gomez, what a striker he would be in terms of an addition to the Forest squad. Facundo Pellistri, he's been linked with a move to Panathinaikos. Gustavo Nunes, young Gremio and Brazil wide forward, linked with Brentford as well. That is from Bendoni. Maxime Lacroix, he has been linked to Crystal Palace, a move from Wolfsburg. I imagine that's very dependent on the future of Mark Guehi. We've also got Manu Kone. He's informed, apparently, Mönchengladbach that he wants to leave the club. AC Milan have apparently had a bid rejected. That deal is not dead. It looks like they will go back in for him again. They've just signed Fofana from Monaco, of course, another French central midfielder, but it looks like they want Manu Kone as well. And finally, Loic Balde. Stuttgart have approached Sevilla for the services of the young French centre-back. Again, Stuttgart in Europe, a new centre-back to the ranks could be absolutely huge for them. Now, at the start of the show, I mentioned there was a lot happening in terms of the matchday squads. A lot of leagues, it was the opening day of the season, and you can also tell from matchday squads who's in the plans and who's not. But some of these just came completely left field, to be honest with you. So get your comments in below, please, if I've missed anyone. But what we've done is we've put together a list of all the key players that were left out of their matchday squad, and to be honest, quite surprising as well. We'll run through them, but the significance of it and what it means is, if you're not in the opening matchday squad, after pre-season as well, you're not in squad number 1, it's pretty telling. The manager's showing the hand in terms of, we don't want you here. And as harsh as that is, look, the transfer window's open as well. So it always also encourages potential buyers. Look, they're not in the matchday squad, so there's a deal to be done. It gets the players' agents talking. It creates a ripple effect. So, look, we're not saying these players are officially on the transfer list, but to be left out of a matchday squad is absolutely huge. Let's take a dive in and let's take a look at who was left out on game week 1. So to start with, the big one was Raheem Sterling, left out of the Chelsea matchday squad. The manager, Maresca, went with 3 forwards in the shape, on the bench that is, in the shape of Mudryk, Noni Madueke. To be honest, I can't remember who the third one was, but it's certainly not a Raheem Sterling's kind of level. Or is the young striker they just bought in from Barcelona. So Raheem Sterling was left out. He was involved in pre-season as well. His camp, as you call it, released a statement saying they were very confused and apparently wanted reassurance about Sterling's future, but to not be involved in match day 1 is huge. Along with Ben Chilwell as well, he was left out. Of course, Cucurella left back. We completely get that. He had a great Euros, but Ben Chilwell, he was a big signing for Chelsea. He's English, makes up that English quota. Yeah, again, didn't have the best pre-season, but to be left out completely is another telling sign. Ivan Toney, nobody saw this coming. Yeah, he's been linked with moves. Nobody's come in for him at all. He's got 1 year left on his Brentford contract. He was left out of the matchday squad altogether for Brentford's opening win at Crystal Palace. Thomas Frank was interviewed, he was asked about it, and he actually said the reason that he's left out is transfer related, so watch this space there. Next, we had Victor Osimhen. He was left out of Napoli's matchday squad. What's interesting about an Italian matchday squad is they can have up to 11 subs named. So for Osimhen not to be involved altogether is a massive sign that something is going on in the background. He's always kind of expressed his desire to leave, but listen, Napoli are tough customers to do business with. They've not let him leave, clearly, but now to miss out on that opening game of the season against Hellas Verona, and by the way, they lost that 3-0, that is absolutely huge. Sticking in Italy, 2 players from Atlanta were left out of the Atlanta opening day squad. It's Tim Koopmeiners, who's been heavily linked to Juventus this whole window, and a bit of a left field one in Ademola Lookman as well, the wide forward. 2 players that have been mainstays in the Atlanta lineup consistently for the last couple of seasons. It looks like their time is done because they are not involved again. Big players, very important over the last couple of seasons for Atlanta, so to not be involved, Koopmeiners we kind of get, but Lookman, that was very left field. Back to England, Joe Gomez. Listen, Joe Gomez has had some great seasons for Liverpool under Klopp, and now Klopp's gone. Arne Slot is in. He clearly doesn't fancy Gomez. That is surprising. Look, he can play right back, centre back, left back. Always quite reliable for Liverpool. Yeah, look, he's not top tier in terms of his defensive qualities, but his development from when Liverpool brought him in from Charlton has been absolutely brilliant. You can't knock that at all in terms of development. He made the move from Charlton to Liverpool and fitted right in right away. So Liverpool's opening game of the season was away at Ipswich. Gomez, if he didn't start, fine, you get that. But to not actually be named on the bench, considering that he's a utility defender and can play all the way across the back, was massively surprising. Finally, Leon Goretzka was not included in Bayern Munich's opening DFB Pokal Cup game. Normally a mainstay in that Bayern Munich central midfield as well. Company's come in, maybe he doesn't fancy him. It said Goretzka's apparently come out and said he wants to fight for his place in the squad, but, you know, new manager, his first squad, first match day, he leaves Goretzka out. Goretzka's 29, so it would be a great buy for somebody, but Company clearly doesn't fancy it. We know Company plays a certain type of football. We've seen that with Burnley, although, let's face it, in the Premier League it's absolutely atrocious, but the Championship, you really seen the blueprint that Company has. He must think Goretzka can't play that blueprint. Goretzka clearly has other ideas, he wants to stay, but watch this space on that one. They're all very interested, and the reason I've listed them here is to not, you can see the calibre of player, so to not be involved in the opening matchday squad is a massive message to the player from the manager to say, look, you're not involved. And all these players have agents, they have teams, of course, as well. They will deal with the ripple effect of that. They will now start talking to clubs quite considerably, and we'll see what develops. I'm not saying every single one of these players is going to leave, of course. That is not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, you can bet your bottom dollar that some of these will be. Again, we'll cover it on the transfer show, of course. It may be in the movement section. I'd anticipate it to be in the completed transfer section, so keep your eyes out. But this was very, very interesting to see over the weekend. Always interesting to see things like that on paper and see the calibre of player that is now, although not officially, available on the transfer market. Sticking with the transfer market, it seems like the Conor Gallagher deal is now, just looking at it here, finally back on. And what it means is João Felix to Chelsea, back to Chelsea, is also back on. So what a crazy transfer that was, or has been. But look, it involves Chelsea, so are you surprised? I'm really not. They'll bring back João Felix. Where does he play? Who knows? He's more of a off the front man kind of player, I believe. Anyway, I don't think he can lead the line for Chelsea down the middle. But they've only got Nicholas Jackson at the moment. If you've seen the game at the weekend against Man City, not very impressive at all. Chelsea need a bit more. Is João Felix the answer? Will they go back in for Osimhen? Ivan Toney even could be a great addition to their squad as well to lead the line. Who knows what Bowley's going to do? He didn't look happy. If you've seen the match, you would have seen him walk out after Man City scored the second goal. But it looks like this transfer is back on for Conor Gallagher. It looks like João Felix will be returning to Chelsea as well. This is coming from Romano, who's reported it. Obviously a brilliant source, very reliable as we know. So watch this space on that one. But hopefully if you enjoyed the show, if you have, look, give us a comment below. We look to do questions every week. Every day. I haven't had any questions on the last video, but if you do want to get your questions in, we do them a show in advance. So get your questions in on this one. I will tackle them on the next show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well.